Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Starters are back out there for the offense as Nash McElroy will run this series. Again, 51 seconds to play. Bearcats trying to score one more time. McElroy to throw, fires down the middle of the field, and it's going to be caught. First down, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Caden Finley. 40 yards. They only needed 9 seconds, not 51. And we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. We also welcome you to, of course, our new home for the podcast, which is Parker County Brewing Company. Every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year will come from this location. Also want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We always appreciate their support of the podcast and Aledo Athletics. Number one Aledo now 3-0 following its 54-7 District 3-5A opening win against Brewer last Friday. That was at Tim Buchanan Stadium. Aledo has won the last 17 meetings from the Bears in what could have been their last meeting in a while or maybe ever between these two. And of course, the District 3-5A season continues this week with the win over Brewer. The national record district winning streak is now at 128. Aledo on the road this Friday in North Richland Hills to meet the Birdville Hawks, rather. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff from Birdville Fine Arts Athletic Complex. And Hank FM has all the coverage for you starting at 6:30. The Hawks are 2-1. They won their district opener against Granbury last Friday, 35-21. They used a big first quarter to get control of that one. As always, we have two segments in this podcast. We'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones and review the Brewer win and look ahead to Friday against Birdville. In our second segment, we will be joined by two seniors, offensive right guard Ryan Campbell and defensive tackle Decker Sanders. Okay, Coach, when we look back last Friday, it was a game that was well needed. Offense had big plays. You all scored on the opening possession and just had the big first quarter to get things going. Now, no one's going to mistake Brewer for Lancaster or Denton Geyer, but seeing your guys execute, gaining some confidence can never be overlooked. And I'm sure you probably had to feel that way, and your guys had to feel that way after looking at the tape, because there has to go more into that than just who it is that you're playing. It's an execution thing, too.
Right. I thought the guys executed well, in all phases of the game, offense, defense, especially offensively, getting the passing game going.
Right.
Had a big game from Nash McElroy. Always, when you go back and watch the video, there's lots of things that we can improve on. But overall, playing the two really tough defenses early. Lancaster, their defense is really good. So is Denton Geyer. So, we got to, basically open the offense up a little bit, and that's what we like to see is, getting those explosive plays. And that's where a lot of our explosive plays we feel like are going to come this year is in the passing game. So we got to get the passing game going, get those big explosive plays. I think just about every one of our receivers had a big play.
Yeah, that's great to see, too. And talking about the balance with this offense, 561 total, 237 on the ground, 324 in the air. Was this a game to maybe open up the playbook more than what you were doing against Geyer and Lancaster? You kind of touched on that a few seconds ago, but obviously you were talking about maybe the coverages could kind of dictate what you could do too.
Yeah, we were getting some man coverage the other day, and we had some really good matchups we felt like once they did get in man coverage. So the quarterbacks did a really good job. They saw that it was man coverage. We had an RPO called, and they checked out of the RPO into the pass game. And did a really good job of doing that. Both quarterbacks, I believe, were able to do that and hit some big plays.
All right. And it looked like from a game flow situation where Nash McElroy took the majority of the snaps. He threw for 249 yards and 4 scores, only missed 3 attempts. And I think there were 2 that if it's just closer by an inch or 2, those are also completions. So was this a game flow thing to keep him on there, or was there something that we didn't see as fans and broadcasters?
No, it's exactly. We didn't go into the game, with that plan. The plan was to, use both of them however we felt. But Nash was, executing the offense really well. And when we got one that's doing that, and it could have been Lincoln doing that. Mm-hmm. But Nash was, doing a really good job of getting the ball out to our receivers and getting it to our playmakers. And then whenever that happens and we feel like, Nash is in a groove and we're going to keep him at quarterback, we're going to see more of Lincoln Tubbs at some receiver.
Okay, and I would imagine, too, that in spite of what we saw, that this quarterback situation is still kind of the same as it's been through the first 3 games of the season, just kind of playing them both out there, see how it kind of flows, and then kind of go from there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we got to have both those guys ready to play quarterback. You know, we can't just go set and say, hey, we're just going to play one of them. Both of them got to get some game experience, because that's what both of them were lacking coming into the season was, you know, Friday night game experience, you know, and if something were to happen to one of them, then we only have, you know, the other. And if we don't get both of them those reps, then we might be in a bad situation somewhere down the line.
And one thing we saw in the game on Friday was something we hadn't seen in the previous 2, getting your tight ends involved in the passing game. First catches for each. Skylar Kirk with a touchdown that covered 13 yards. Colby Thompson's reception went for 12. Was that we need to see what we have here in the game situation with these 2? Because I thought Kirk's touchdown catch was a really great athletic play. But again, those are guys that hadn't really had much experience at tight end, so a perfect time to do that.
Right, and it's something that I've touched on before. You know, we've got really good weapons out wide, you know, including our tight ends. We just haven't been able to get them the ball in those first 2 ball games. So I think what you saw on Friday night was us being able to get the ball to all of our playmakers, not just one. You know, we got the ball to pretty much everybody on the field. And when we do that, we're going to be a pretty good offense.
Yeah, a healthy number of guys touched the football among all the starters, and that had to be a really great thing. Bain Martin was involved. Of course, we talked about Caden's big game. We'll get to that here in a second here. But I think before we get into what Caden did, but I think it was a perfect game, too, for Jeremiah Johnson to get some action, the running back who's had the knee injury. Been a long road for him following that knee injury. And I would suspect that there's always going to be some hesitation to start, but maybe the good thing for him is that he took some contact, got through it, and knew that the knee was fine. Yeah,
I mean, that's good. You know, good to see him get a few carries. It's only going to, you know, lead to more and more, you know, as the year goes on, you know. And that's another thing you got to look at. We have 4 really good running backs. You know, we got the 2 seniors that are the 2 bell cows right now that are getting the majority of the carries.
Right.
And then you got the junior Jeremiah, and then the other senior Rudy Moya. You know, all of those guys, you know, can go out and play, you know, so – but there's only one ball, and there's only one running back that can be out there at a time for the most part. So, you know, the carries are going to come. You know, it's just going to be, you know, difficult managing all that.
Have we reached a point in the high school game? I mean, we see it a lot in college, and, of course, we see it quite a bit in the NFL, where to preserve the life of a running back now that we're seeing multiple running backs getting X amount of carries throughout a ball game, and maybe one will get I'm going to throw arbitrary numbers out here, 15 to 20 for maybe the lead, then maybe 7 to 10 for the second guy, and then maybe 4 to 6 for the third. Is that kind of the way you're kind of drifting in that direction too with this group, or how do you see that at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to, you know, try to balance it out with all those guys, you know, give all those guys their opportunities, especially if they're performing well. You know, how they perform is going to be basically how, you know, we view that as far as getting them opportunities. Now, normally you have that one guy that's, you know, head and shoulders above everyone else, you know, and he's going to get the majority of the carries in most cases. But, you know, right now we feel pretty good about, you know, all those guys getting some carries.
Okay. And great to see Caden Finley doing Caden Finley things. We can talk about the 2 touchdowns where he put his speed on display. You heard the clip just a few moments ago, the 40-yard reception. But I think the one that I liked the most was the fact that around the Brewer 40-yard line, I think it was his first catch where he out-jumped 2 defenders for him. That's vintage Caden Finley's athleticism right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's stuff we've seen from Caden for 4 years, you know, or longer than that, because I remember watching him, you know, when he was in middle school and playing 7-on-7 in middle school and making catches over top of everybody. So, you know, that's just things that we expect out of him. You know, with the ball's in the air, he needs to go make a play on it and then go do something with it afterwards. You know, he did have a really good game. We were able to get the ball to him. You know, they manned him up a couple of times, which was a mistake. And then, you know, we also had the screen pass to him that could have been another touchdown, but you know we had the turnover on it. So that's something that he can improve on, is making sure he has that ball security, especially down there when you're on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, that was such a weird play too, because it looked like a little friendly fire on that too. I think it was rolling. His back was turned to us in the booth, but it looked like he was rolling on top of a teammate there when it inadvertently came out or something.
Yeah, I believe that one of our offensive linemen that was down the field trying to block for him, you know, ended up, you know, in the mix on all that.
Okay. Amari Dimbo back at right tackle, wanted to be cautious. You played him 2 or 3 series. How did he look, and do you plan to add more to his plate this coming Friday?
Yeah, you know, the plan is to play more and more each week. The plan was 2 or 3 series this past week, which he got those, and then he felt fine afterwards. Probably could have played more, but we went in with a plan, and we stuck with the plan to make sure that we didn't tax him too much. The plan this week is to try to get him a full half, and if we're able to do that, we're going to stick him in there and go the full half with him, and then from there. After we get the half, then it's full game.
Okay. Defensively, I know everyone wanted the shutout minus the big run against your backups. This was pure domination, and without that run, of course, there was a 50-yard pass play that they had earlier in the game. I mean, Brewer's looking at about 130 yards of total offense. Overall thoughts on just the way your defense performed on Friday?
I mean, it's what we expect out of them. We didn't like the long pass that we gave up early. We missed a tackle on that. We had another guy that was out of position. So, take that away. They didn't do a whole lot, and then against our backups, they got the big long run.
Okay, and then, as unfortunate as the Finley turnover was right at the goal line, I think on the ensuing play when Cooper Cyphers collects the safety, just a sign of that front doing its thing. Of course, it was a bad snap, but at the same time, they made sure that they paid for it too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we wanted to get out of that. Once that ball was on the 1 yard line, the defense wanted to attack. And I don't know if you saw them; they were turned around, waiting for the call from Coach McCone, and they were calling for what they wanted, to put some pressure on that quarterback and get in the backfield, and they got it.
All right, and I was going to say it would have been, I guess, an all-points bulletin had we not had a Aledo defensive score by this time of the year, and so we got that one out of the way. Now we're looking for a defensive touchdown. And speaking of your defensive front, you're still a little bit shorthanded. Again, Carson Dempsey not available. Max Foreman is out, but you continue to get good play from Ethan Marchlinsky. He and Cason Miller, guys that I think you all liked. I don't know if you were expecting them to play this much, but they have delivered.
Right. If we have Dempsey out there, then, they're not getting as many reps. But, it's good to see those guys get out there and perform. I think we're going to get Max back this week.
Okay.
Not 100% on that. He was out there this morning, but I didn't check to see how he was after the practice. But, get Max back. You got Marchlinsky that's been playing well. Miller – he's got an elbow issue, but hopefully we can get some snaps out of him as well this week. So, it's good to get all those guys some looks.
All right, and then from the middle, I thought Timon Meeks had a huge night for you. It was very disruptive. He had a batted passes for one, so it just seemed like one of his better games. He's played pretty consistent, but this one's a little more I felt like he stood out.
Yeah, I think we got in some fronts that maybe singled him up a little bit more than what we had been. He's been getting a lot of double teams. Those two D tackles, they get a lot of double teams.
Yeah.
But when we get in some different looks, we can single him up a little bit. And I think that's what happened was we got him singled up. And, when you get him singled up, he can beat the guy.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Timon's teammate here in just a few moments on this. I want to shift to the secondary with Cameron Hall, the senior. Quietly having a huge season. He's already up to 9.5 tackles, has the interception. What do you think is the biggest change in his game that you see?
The fact that he has a full year of experience. Last year it was him learning the position at the varsity level. We had trained him up at that position, his freshman and sophomore year. Then he finally got to go out on the varsity last year and perform as a varsity football player. But, at the same time, it's his first time on the varsity, first time getting out there, getting those live reps. So he's had a full year of that, so he knows the position, and when you know the position, you're able to play faster and play harder.
All right, so let's turn to Birdville. The Hawks, as we mentioned, are 2-1. They're under the direction of Chris Smith. They have their quarterback, Zach Wells, back, who did not play in this game last year because of injury, but he seems to be a pretty solid go-to guy running their offense. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing a lot better than they did last year, and I expected that, with Coach Smith being there for a full year and the fact that I think they were on their third quarterback last year. They're able to throw the ball a lot better, and they do have some explosive receivers that can go, they take a little hitch route and go all the way for a touchdown. And then, they've got a pretty good running back as well. So, it's a well-rounded offense, so I think it's going to be a pretty good task for us.
All right, and speaking specifically, what do you think those challenges might be that they present?
We got to make sure that we're making tackles. If we miss a tackle on this running back, he has the speed to take it the distance. The same same thing with the guys out wide. They get those little screens out there, and if we miss a tackle, they've got the ability to go, take it the distance.
All right. You mentioned the running game. Christian Carbo and Anthony White are their 1-2 approach. I think they've combined for roughly 400 yards. I know they've combined for 6 touchdowns. Each has 3. So how different are those two? How similar are they?
They're real similar. You don't even really notice a whole lot of difference, when one's in and the other's, not. They're both really good running backs, and they got some good speed. Okay,
and then finally, just about them defensively, of course, they had a defensive touchdown last week against Granbury, part of their 21-point first quarter. They also hit Granbury with a couple of big pass plays, too, to get them started. But defensively, focus on that part. What's the challenge there?
They run the 3-3 stack with the 3 safety look that, Iowa State made famous a couple of years ago. It's kind of the fad defense right now. Last year they were a 4-3 team, but now they've changed to this defense. So it's a different scheme. They do a lot of stunting, so our offensive line is going to have to pick up all the stunts that they do out of that defense. And so that just, creates some problems, with them moving all over the place.
All right, Coach. Well, we'll look forward to Friday. Again, the Bearcats and the Hawks getting started at 7 o'clock at the Birdville Fine Arts and Athletic Complex over in North Richland Hills. Pre-game show on Hank FM will start at 6:30. Then we will kick things off at 7 o'clock. We'll see you on Friday, Coach.
All right, thank you.
All right, and we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda, head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. The second segment of the podcast will come next. That'll feature Ryan Campbell and Decker Sanders. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Back after this timeout. And Tubbs has taken over at quarterback here. He calls for the shotgun at the 40-yard line, and it'll be a give to Wingfield with room to run at the 25 to the 20, the 15, foot race to the 10 to the 5, dragging a tackler into the end zone. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats. And that was Caden Wingfield's long touchdown run for the Bearcats, which continued their scoring barrage last Friday as they defeated Brewer by a score of 54-7. We welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist here at Parker County Brewing Company. Before we get started with our second segment, let's give you a couple of Aledo notables. Lady Cats volleyball team is ranked number 2 in the Texas Girls Coaches Association Class 5A poll. They are 27-2 overall and 2-0 in District 5-5A. They've run off 25 consecutive district wins following last Friday's victory over Brewer, and they are at Granbury on Tuesday. And while Aledo has its district bye, the first of its 2 byes this week, the Lady Cats are playing. They have senior night on Thursday against Brock. And then in one college note, wide receiver JoJo Earl, who transferred from TCU to UNLV, is off to a promising start. So far, 6 catches for 65 yards through the first 3 games. The Rebels are 3-0 and coming off a pretty impressive 30-23 victory over UCLA last Friday. Okay, time to welcome in our members of this Aledo 2025 football team. That is senior right guard Ryan Campbell and senior defensive tackle Decker Sanders. Guys, thanks for being with us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the victory over Brewer. I know you guys really wanted to get the shutout. Didn't happen, but dominating performance on both sides. Offense erupts. Defense does what it's supposed to. It's kind of like what we've been used to seeing over the last couple of years. I would think that had to feel good. Deckers, why don't you start about just feeling like it? Because these first 2 games against Geyer and Lancaster were just pretty much slugfests.
Yes, sir. That's what we wanted. We want to go in there and shut them out and show that we're a dominant football team, and that's what we're supposed to do against those teams.
All right. And Ryan, what about for you?
Yes, sir. It was great. Our run game has been real strong, and it was great last week to see our pass game start to come together, and some great overall team wins.
Now, of course, us as fans, because we are so used to seeing these big scores in the years past that we didn't see them in the first 2 games, we're going, what's going on here? And then, but for you guys, was that kind of a feeling of exhaling too, just saying, okay, we've got that under, we got some momentum here? How did you see that, Ryan?
Yeah, it was great. Start 2-0 this year. I think it says a lot about our team. I think we have something special this year. I think we got a real shot this year.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. I've asked this of all the seniors who have come before you on the podcast about this, the urgency, the finale of everything here. The fact it's like the last time to do the first thing, like the last time to play like your first district game, like it was against Brewer last week. So, what's this like now? Because it's your turn. You've seen other classes come ahead of you and knowing what it's that urgency like. But Decker, I'm going to ask you just what's the feeling like differently for you as you're preparing for the season and now going through it, and just what it means because this is it.
Yes, sir. About it is we've seen the past 3 classes before us graduate, and we've seen their mistakes and where they did good at. So just as like a class to really just, go 100% full speed and not have the same mistakes they did.
Okay, and then what about for you, Ryan? Because this is it.
Really just trying to soak everything up. Really I'm as hungry as I've ever been for a state championship, and win one more. And I believe we have it this year. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, for you personally, Ryan, making the decision, of course, you're going to be going to a great academic school at Trinity University down in San Antonio. Your former teammate is down there, and Blake Burdine. And so I would think that that's something for you, just, that opportunity. What's that like for you to know that you have an opportunity to play in college?
It's great. A big thing for them is great academics, and then Coach Urban, he's been great. They've won the last 3 conferences, and so I feel like from the jump to Aledo to Trinity, it's going to be still the same competitive football, and then they got a strong tradition down there, so it's going to be – I'm excited.
All right. Decker, I want to talk about the chemistry that you and Timon have developed over the last couple of years. You heard me mention to Coach about the big game that he had. Of course, you've had some really special moments yourself. What's that chemistry like that you have with Timon?
We know we can if we get caught in a bad call, we can play each other's positions. We know how each other play. We can communicate with each other, and there's no division. It's just go, 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 go between us.
Has it been a case where you guys know each other so well that it could just be like a facial expression, or maybe just tapping him on the shoulder knowing I'm going to cut to this side, or has it reached that point between the two of you?
Yes, sir, it definitely has. With certain situations and formations, we can give each other the look, I'm going here, you're going there, and we know and lock eyes and just know what to do.
Okay, and then Ryan, for you, obviously having Omari back with you last week, played a couple of series. What did that do for you, and what does that mean for this line to have him back? And of course, it's still kind of a gradual process for him. Got a few series last week. You heard Coach say probably play a half this week against Birdville. But what's that like just to get him back and get the full complement of the line out there?
Yeah, it's great to have him back. We were all heartbroken when he went down on the inter-squad scrimmage, but Elms has done a great job to kind of step up and fill in that role, but we're all excited for Omari to come back and see what he's capable of this season.
What's that going to mean, though, in terms of just execution and just maybe what that could mean for the running game? I mean, the running game is good as it is, but when you have when you have all 5 there, which they always like to say it needs to form a fist, what does that mean?
I think it's going to make our run game as strong as ever. I think we all put our mind to it. We're all going to be able to get our blocks, no miss assignments, so all 5 of us are there and just continue to have a strong run game.
Okay, I want to take it to you real quickly on this, Decker. Of course, obviously you guys had the unfortunate turnover right down at the 1-yard line, but of course, and you heard Coach talk about it, the fact that everyone was looking over to Brad McCone when they had first and 10 at their 1-yard line. And so what was the look over? What was the call that you guys were looking for?
We have a call, Bear Black, and we run it. We've been running it ever since we started football this fall, and we truly believe bringing 5 of us up front puts fear in their eyes. And like the last game against Lancaster, we put Barron and they snapped it over the quarterback's head. So
that's the one.
Okay,
yes, all right. So that was the one that lost it like 22 yards or so, because that was an important play too, because they were down at your 18-yard line. And then that completely disintegrated that drive for them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so let's just talk about offensively, getting back to that real quickly. I would like to think that this was the kind of game for you guys, just overall feeling like I knew we could do this. We had this capability in us. And obviously you all played really 2 solid 6A teams in Lancaster and Denton Geyer, who have, you've seen what they've done here, that they've got into some really high-scoring affairs. Geyer took North Crowley to the end and lost it in the last few moments. But what kind of confidence now, when you look at what those other 2 teams are doing, and what kind of confidence that means for you guys moving forward. It's not like this program has never been short of confidence, but those were 6A teams. I'll start with you on this, Decker.
Yes, sir. I feel like that gives us the confidence that we need to go the full season and through playoffs, and especially being down a couple key players, we know that we can bring in a backup and we can have the ball rolling just as good with our backups.
All right, and then what about for you, Ryan?
I know right now I think all the coaches and all the players agree that we probably have one of the best defenses in the state. And the way, Geyer and Lancaster competed with North Crowley, supposed to be the best team in the state, that really does give us a lot of confidence rolling into this season with big games coming up against Ryan and Richland. All
right, looking forward to Friday against Birdville, the things that they present on tape. I'll start with you on this, Decker, because they've got a pretty seasoned quarterback, or at least he's back from injury, and he's got some confidence working. They've got a pretty good running game working there. What's going to be key for you guys to kind of limiting their effectiveness?
Definitely good in the pass rush and keep him contained to get to him so he can't throw a ball and have explosive plays, and just play gaps down the run game and just what we've been doing.
All right. And then, Ryan, obviously with them defensively, they're pretty opportunistic from what we've seen. Just what's going to be keys about going against their defense?
Coach Williams went over this morning. He said we're really going to attack the run this week. He said we're still going to have opportunities for pass, but really just pound the run.
All right. And then just everything that you guys have been building out, where do you think this team is now? Final question for you. Where you think this team is now from where you were in the opener against Geyer? Decker, I'll start with you.
I think going to Geyer, we had a good amount of confidence that we had confidence in ourselves and our others, and the defense had confidence in offense, but it wasn't fully confident. I feel like now, being 3 games in, being 3-0, we have more confidence in each other, and there's not as much division, and I feel like that's good. That's going to be a strong suit for us.
And then what do you think is different about this team now, Ryan, from where you guys were prior to kicking off against Geyer to where you are now getting ready for Birdville on Friday?
I think there was a lot of questions how it would be, and I think that really the way we performed, it's kind of brought us all closer together as a team and building that brotherhood. And so I think it's been great.
All right. Gentlemen, we want to thank you. To my immediate left here is senior defensive tackle Decker Sanders. To my far left is senior right guard Ryan Campbell. Let's give these gentlemen a nice round of applause. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30, exit Las Vegas Trail, and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. So for my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being here with us at Parker County Brewing Company. We will be back next week on Tuesday because Aledo has its homecoming parade next Monday. So next Tuesday here at 7 o'clock. So have a great week ahead. Don't forget the Bearcats taking on the Birdville Hawks on Hank FM over in North Richland Hills. Pre-game show on Hank FM is at 6:30. The kickoff is at 7. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.